Good evening, good evening. I want to read another article. Let's hope it doesn't get me in trouble. Since the last time I read an article, I got the YouTube spanking. But I don't think this one will because it's a good article. It is called, it's about your brain is a supercomputer. Here's how to reboot it, according to the world-renowned brain coach, Jim Quick. Now, honestly, I'd read it to you off of this phone and just have the video up of the words, but I really can't see that well. Yeah, I'm getting old. My vision is not that great. So I got to resort to something a little bigger. Yeah, that's what she said. Okay. Jim Quick knows how you think. He knows that as an entrepreneur, you're trying to shove as much information into your brain as you can and do it as fast as possible. He knows that it's frustrating, especially in our current moment of great change, because you can never move as fast as the things that are coming at you. Emails pile up, reports go unread, people are waiting for you, your industry is evolving, your world is shifting, and all the while you're bombarded with noise and distraction and Slack pings, and it's why you wake up early and grab your phone and respond to everyone right away, as if they'll actually stem the tide, which it will not. He's seen this play out infinitely. As the world's top brain performance coach and the author of the best-selling book Limitless, he worked with teams at Google, Nike, SpaceX, Virgin, Facebook, and Zappos. He's seen what overloads look like at the highest levels. Just keep reading, Jody. Don't say nothing. He knows that you felt he knows that you felt on the verge of burning out, particularly during the past year when everything you know has been thrown in the garbage, and he knows it's a complicated feeling a lot of the times. He says aren't he says entrepreneurs are burnt out not because they're doing too much, but because they're doing too little of the things they really value. He knows you're hungry for methods, because who doesn't love methods? Concrete steps as straightforward as a cake recipe. To do better, or to do better. I couldn't resist. It's why he makes online video games full of brain-boosting tactics, and why they draw more than 100 million views. But he also knows that methods by themselves are pointless, like giving someone the cake recipe but locking them out of the kitchen. Because before you can use methods, you need tools that enable you to make use of the methods. And if you think that sounds confusing, Quick knows what to do. Entrepreneurs have to constantly study, he says. They want to be an expert in their field. But if they feel overwhelmed sometimes, it's because they're trying to connect something they don't know to something they don't know. Our brains don't work like that. What did you just read? Why did you just read that interesting article about black holes in another galaxy and then not retain a single damn piece of it afterward? Because you never studied the fundamental information about astronomy, which means you have no knowledge base to connect this information. Yes. Yeah, that's often true. All of learning is connecting something you don't know to something that you do know, he says. We have to start somewhere. Which is why when Quick meets with entrepreneurs, he likes starting with metaphors and stories. Here's a quick metaphor he often tells to his clients, then a quick story. The metaphor. A little boy watches a caterpillar build its cocoon. He waits and waits for it to emerge transformed, but eventually he gets impatient and cuts the cocoon open himself to see the butterfly. Instead, he's horrified to find a swollen, mangled bug. He runs to his mother, who explains, "What happens in the cocoon isn't pretty, but it is also necessary, and it cannot be interrupted." Now the backstory. Back in 2015, Quick's friend Sylvester Stallone called and asked, "Want to join me and Arnold Schwarzenegger and watch Floyd Mayweather Jr. fight Manny Pacquiao?" Of course Quick wanted to do this. He went. When the overhyped match was over, Quick asked these two leggings, "What does it take to be a champion?" Schwarzenegger replied, "The difference between an amateur and a champion is that a champion is willing to push past the pain." What do we learn from these tales? The past year in particular has been a strain unlike any other. And now that the pandemic is coming to a close, it's replacing one kind of uncertainty with another. What will the world be like now? What will people need? And what do they no longer want? And how can entrepreneurs stay on top of it all? There is a massive amount of information to ingest and decide on, and it can be overwhelming. Entrepreneurs want strategies to help with this, but strategies alone will not help, as we now know, because our brains first need something more fundamental. What is the fundamental thing then? What's the foundation to build upon? The thing to know first, which more knowledge can be built upon, and that we need now more than ever as we emerge from the pandemic and into whatever comes next. The number one skill set, Quick says, is to learn how to learn. He had to teach this to himself because at first, Quick didn't know how to learn. He was just, as one of his grade school teachers called him, a boy with a broken brain. Quick suffered from his first head injury at the age of 5. He had 2 more by the age of 12. As a result, basic cognitive functions became difficult. He struggled to focus, to read, to remember. His school grades were terrible. His self-esteem was shattered. He pushed himself and was accepted into a local state university, but the work was so difficult and Quick felt so overwhelmed that he considered dropping out his freshman year. That's when a friend intervened. "Before you tell your parents you're going to quit school," his friend said, "I'm going to see my family. Why don't you come with me and just get some space?" Quick said that this trip would change his life. Before dinner one night, the friend's father invited Quick for a walk around the property. "How's school?" the father asked, and Quick broke down crying. Then the father asked him, "Jim, why are you in school? What do you want to be?" Quick didn't know how to answer. Nobody had ever asked him that before. The father grabbed a journal, tore out a few sheets of paper, and asked Quick to write down his goals and his dreams. Quick did, and then started to fold up the paper and put it in his pocket, but the father grabbed the paper and started reading. "I'm freaking out," Quick recalls. "I'm freaking out too. I couldn't even read the word." Quick recalls, because I've never shared this with anyone. The list contained the normal dreams of an 18-year-old, finding success, making his parents proud. Then the father held up 2 index fingers about a foot apart and said, "You're this close to achieving everything on your list." I'm like, no way. Give me 10 lifetimes and I'm not going to crack that list, Quick says. And then he takes his index fingers and puts them on the sides of my head. "Your brain," the father says, "has the power to make these goals possible." Then he took Quick into his library with a wall full of books and instructed Quick to read a book a week. Quick said it was impossible. He was a slow reader, and anyway, he had midterms coming up. The father said it didn't matter. Figure a way out. Then, to hammer home the point, he pulled out Quick's list of goals and started reading them out loud. I don't know what it was, Quick said, but something about hearing your deepest desires in somebody else's voice, incanted into the universe. It messed with my mind and my spirit, Quick said. Quick agreed, and he read a book a week. But he didn't know how. Back at school, he pushed himself. He pushed himself to do it, barely sleeping, barely eating. He withered down to 117 pounds. And one morning at 2 a.m., he fell down a flight of stairs at the school library and smashed his head. He woke up in the hospital, malnourished and dehydrated, thinking he'd died. Then a nurse entered with a mug that had Albert Einstein's face on it. Quick took it as a sign. He'd once done a book report on Einstein in high school, but he was so insecure that he threw it out rather than hand it in to his teacher. Now Einstein stared at him, along with a quote printed on the mug. We cannot solve our problems with the same level of thinking that created them. Something clicked for Quick. He understood his problem. It's not how smart you are. It's how smart you are. He says, Quick loves speaking like this, shifting words around, inverting phrase meanings. I thought that I was failing school, but in a way school was failing me, because sometimes the way a teacher prefers to teach is different than the way a student has of learning. People learn in different ways, he realized, and just because he learned differently than his peers didn't mean he was unable to learn. He simply needed to figure out what worked for him. That's what he set out doing. Once he'd figured out, he began tutoring other students to do the same. Then he began tutoring those students' parents, who passed him along to their friends and colleagues, and soon Quick was training the greatest minds in the world. Now he is in demand by major companies, entrepreneurs, athletes, and entertainers, and he travels the globe speaking to crowds of thousands. Quick says he is torn about this success. I didn't want to be famous. I don't want to be known for this work, he says. I'm very introverted and very shy. He doesn't hide this either. In conversation, he speaks in a serious, subdued tone, looking off to the side every so often as if needing to recharge. But he feels compelled to keep teaching, reading to the maximum number of people he can, because he knows how transformative it is to learn. Shame on me, he says, if somebody is struggling and suffering the way I did for so long, and I didn't help that person. So, how do you learn how to learn? This is a big and complicated, and when Quick explains it, his words form a kind of abstract Russian nesting doll. One category of thought which opens up to reveal another category, which opens up to reveal another, and so on. But in short, we can start with what not to do, because it's the first thing Quick tells people. Or rather, I reverse that. It's the way other people first tell Quick. I'm dyslexic. Give me a break. Anyways, let's get back to the article. People come to me all the time and they're like, Jim, I can't do this. I'm not good at this. And I say, stop. If you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them, he says. People in our society are constantly talking about the things that they can't do. I'm going to interrupt this real quick and say I'm dyslexic and I'm stuttering, but I am reading this article because I can. Now back to the article. Does he hear this from billionaire CEO at top peer companies too? Oh goodness, Quick replied. I can't tell you how many high-profile individuals struggle with self-esteem issues. The way he sees it, all behavior is driven by beliefs. And if someone believes they cannot do something, then they won't be able to, no matter their level of accomplishment. Your brain is a supercomputer, and an entrepreneur's self-talk is the program that will run, he says. To create a winning mindset, then people can't just focus on what they want to do. They have to identify their limiting beliefs, and then, he says, systematically unlimit them. Quick believes that our mindsets have been destroyed by many lies, or rather LIES, limited ideas entertained. He also likes acronyms. Among the biggest lies, intelligence is fixed, mistakes are failures, genius is born, learning new things is hard, and knowledge is power. That last one may sound like a mistake. How can knowledge not be power? But Quick points out that knowledge alone isn't power. Entrepreneurs feel that just like buying a book is good enough, or just like listening to a podcast or going on Clubhouse is enough for them to have some power, he says. But when entrepreneurs learn something, he says, they must filter it through 3 questions. How can I use this? Why must I use this? And when will I use this? Without those answers, knowledge is wasted. That's mindset. In brief, unlimit your beliefs and actively turn knowledge into power. Remember earlier when Quick said that you need the right mindset before you can truly make use of good methods. Well, are we there yet? No, because if you combine a great mindset with powerful methods, you don't actually have learning. Instead, what you have is ideation. I just caught that I said ideation instead of ideation. All right. Oh boy, a lot of entrepreneurs suffer from ideation, he says. They believe everything is possible and they have these great ideas, but they are not doing anything because they're not motivated. I'm motivated by the embarrassment of me saying ideation. That's the final piece of the puzzle. If you want to learn how to learn, you must combine mindset, methods, and finally motivation. The evidence that somebody is motivated, an entrepreneur or their team or customers, is that they constantly take action, Quick says. I think 90% of entrepreneurs would say, yes, I have an issue staying motivated to constantly do the things I don't want to do. Quick has come up with a formula to fix this, which he says goes with the P times E times SE, however you want to say that. P is for purpose. Am I going to cheer? No, I'm going to read the article here. P is purpose. A passion for entrepreneurs is what lights you up. And I think purpose is how you use that passion to light up others. E is for energy. It's about manage your energy like you manage your time so that you have enough of it when you need it. And S3 is small, simple steps, breaking things down into manageable tasks. What keeps people from acting is either they're intimidated or they're confused. Quick says, so ask, what is the tiniest action I can take right now that will give me progress towards my goal? Combine all this together and you've built a true action-oriented motivation. Now you're ready to really learn, to absorb the methods you find in books and podcasts and in this magazine article I'm reading, and to extend your potential. Because above all, as Quick transformed himself from a stunted learner into a world-renowned brain coach, he is convinced of this. We contain more potential than we know. This is not about being perfect, he says. This is about advancing and progressing beyond what we believe is possible. We live in a world where we outsource jobs to Asia, to automation, to artificial intelligence. Why not? Why? What? What's not going to be easily sent to a machine? What are the things that are truly limitless? There are no limits to our creativity. There's no limit to our imagination. And there's no limit to our ability to solve problems. The most limitless thing in the world, in other words, is us.